There was no need to roofie me at all. I mean, please just wait till it wears off because I'd like to enjoy the experience. Again.
Oh, man.
That's right. So, what made you guys get into this? Why am I asking a question?
Who's interviewing who?
Yeah, what
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
I don't mind it.
I don't mind it at all.
I am curious, though. That was something I wanted to know. Is what I really wanted to know that because I saw the idea. I mean, I think everybody over the past year has thought about starting a podcast because that was the only thing to do for the most people, and it's become popular. And it's a good idea. Long format. I mean, the 2-minute Conan cheesy jokes. This is not a good format to get the real person out, or the politicians or whatever. You talk about a movie for a second, and then talk about what you did when you were 8 on 4th of July. You know, pre-planned, obviously scripted,
right.
Cheesy script. These are so much better. Why did you guys pull the trigger? That was what I wondered. I mean, I thought about it, but I mean, you guys really did it.
The need was there. Numbers were on the rise, like mental unwellness,
Okay,
suicide
so you guys,
stuff.
That's what I was wondering. Were you initially going into it for the serious component or for blowing off steam, kind of the Friday afternoon radio show? You know, which angle it was.
Ironically enough, we wanted to try to reduce these numbers by way of giving this fun, we're having fun guests on like yourself.
A little of both.
Yeah,
right.
And then some serious folks.
So you can talk if you need to. It's a brotherhood.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is, I've noticed that over the past, like during my career, there was a couple people that committed suicide. A guy named Johnny Todd in 2009. That stuck with me, man. I knew him well, and that stuck with me. But then over the past couple of years, like literally, I look at my profile pictures, and it's like a profile picture and then the line, profile picture and then the line with somebody else's name. And my history of profile pictures literally looks like a cemetery of old coworkers.
Right.
Which is creepy. And most of them are permanent solutions to temporary problems.
Yeah. That's a great saying, by the way.
Yeah, my old battalion chief, my and Jeremy's old battalion chief said that. Which is, I mean, I couldn't think of a more eloquent way to say that because it really is. I mean, I've never committed suicide, obviously, but they say that it's typically just a rash decision or chronic depression. Then they get a bill that they can't pay, and that's it, or whatever. Somebody cheats or But it's something that if somebody was there to talk them off a ledge, it really wouldn't be that catastrophic.
Yeah. We kind of hoped to have a few people talk about the after. Like, I've been in low spots, depression and what have you, and I'm not there now, so I luckily didn't choose a permanent problem or a permanent solution for that temporary problem. And in that time, if I had seen other folks with the available platform to listen to or see, like, man, that guy talks like I do, and he's cool now, and he wasn't back then. So,
right, that you're not alone.
Yeah.
That was. I think that's one of the biggest points to the mental health or mental wellness thing is we need more, for lack of better terminology, we need more come out stories. We hear, it's plastered all over the place of the bad outcomes, but there's not enough of the many uplifting stories where somebody was there at the ledge and they got brought back by whatever means necessary, but their outlook on it since then, or what they were going through and sharing that experience, and just the message of odds are you're not special. There's probably somebody out there going through something really similar, so it's not the end of the world necessarily. It doesn't have to be.
Nope.
Yeah, there's victories all
Absolutely.
over.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree. I think it's probably way more prevalent than I would think that probably everybody that's been on the job for more than, I shouldn't even put a time limit on it. I mean, you could have your worst call of your career as your first call.
Right.
So, I mean, there's really not a time limit on that. But once you hit that, and it could be the first call for you, once you get to that emotional state where you can't sleep at night or whatever, how it affects everybody differently, and some people it doesn't affect immediately later on. But I think everybody who's been through something bad has got a little touch of PTSD, if we can even define what that is. You know, the definition changes. But it seems like there's been good research after the war. Seems like good medical research always happens during and after wars. But that is good, something good they're at least taking it seriously.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, damn sure better be taken seriously. How many people have died here in the past, just golly, a dozen people in the past 5 years? That's crazy. And this is a small area.
Mm-hmm. Too many.
Yeah, I mean, per capita, if you put that on a department like New York City that's got, 30,000, 60,000 firemen? I don't know the numbers exactly, but between fire and EMS and PD, it's probably 150,000. If you did that per capita, us to them, that would be a ton of firemen dying a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate it. I hate hearing news of somebody, that just adds to, like, it's devastating.
Yep.
So Dina Ali just posted where I guess somebody in the peer support network just committed suicide within the past couple of days. He was a big advocate. He was actually working the peer support network.
That, I wonder if that could be a part of it. Also, they probably work doing a job like that because they've been in a position where they're depressed, and then they involve themselves with it so deep that consumed their life, and then they're
in the same boat.
In the same boat. I mean, and then they are the help. What do you do then?
Yeah, in our peer support network here with the county, we have a few safety measures in place. So, like, if you're a member of the team and you're talking to, this person B, and it's not just you two. So for privacy reasons, you're not like, hey, so-and-so is doing this, and that, but you just say, hey, I'm speaking to somebody, or I'm dealing with something.
So like a sponsor.
Kind of, yeah.
And if you could do that, that'd be great to do. That is kind of why I like the idea of like the big city departments where you're stationed at a house and you're there your whole career unless you want to leave or you get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys are literally like family. It's not some new person coming in every couple of years and you're moving to an area you don't know, where you're learning the station, learning the area, learning the chiefs. I mean, you're not going to get that home comfortable feeling, which, I don't know, it seems so imperative in emergency services. The job sucks if you have a shitty partner or a shitty company.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it make or break.
Yeah, your crew. Firehouse is important, but the crew, your boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of working parts.
And if you have a shitty boss and a great crew, that's kind of a fun dynamic because you've got an adversary that you're all on the same team against.
Yeah.
But having both, having a bad crew sucks, or a crew you can't trust.
Yeah.
But I mean, going back to what you were saying about having somebody to talk to, that's trust is the thing.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, being able to confide in somebody. And I think a lot of the things that you talk about, they're things that you don't know if you're going to be able to keep composure while you're talking about it. And you damn sure don't want to break down at work, because then, you see your shift partner crying like shit on a call. Are they going to lose it then? So, you don't even want to ever break down that wall with shift partners. So, but I mean, if you're with them a long time and you're comfortable with them, I think it seems like it would be just a more comfortable situation to feel comfortable speaking about it. But I don't know if that's the answer, but there has to be an answer out there, or something has to change. There has to be lowered amount of work hours. Something has to change. People can't keep dying.
Yeah, we've often said that there's probably not a black and white answer. Like, this is going to solve the problem. If you just, take this out and put X in its spot, then that's going to solve all the problems. But the understanding of this, just conversations, the comfortability of being able to talk about it. It's not taboo. It's just normal conversation. I think that'll probably help more than anything.
Yeah.
So, to kind of reflect back on why you asked about it, just making conversations like we're having right now. Whereas, you took this 10 years ago, people were like, fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was kind of like,
weird.
It's kind of like healthy eating in the fire service. That when I started in the late 90s, you were made fun of and called a sissy if you ate healthy or exercised. Everybody ate bacon and sausage and eggs in the morning unhealthy food. It was kind of that was your day off from the family, from your wife and kids, so you could eat whatever you wanted to. Boys' Day. And then you were really made fun of hard. You were called Metro, and I mean, if you weren't like a rough, tough, thick mustache, salty old dude, or trying to be one,
Right.
The bigger the better. And that slowly evolved. Of course, when science came along, and if you're completely out of shape trying to do one of the most potentially athletic jobs, I mean, being a firefighter it's literally stored energy with potential to become kinetic at any time within 30 seconds for 24 hours. You need to be in good shape for that.
Tactical athlete.
Yeah, literally.
Yep. Occupational athlete. I've heard that term too.
Yeah.
That was something that whenever I was at work, I was never comfortable while I was at work because I was always ready for a call at all. Even at a slow station, whether working fire EMS, I could never sleep well. I always felt like I was at work, no matter what. You guys notice that?
It's pretty common. I've gotten to where I can sleep good, but everybody doesn't share that,
Yeah, and it may be because I moved around. I was never stationed at this. When I worked for the fire department, just the way things were, there was one-man engine companies, and there were stations with an engine company, but I was never stationed at one. I was considered part-time, but I worked 40 to 60 hours a week. I worked full-time hours, but I was under my dad's insurance, so I didn't need the when we first started, you made overtime over 40 hours. Right. So you lost a ton of money to go full-time because you're working, you got to get,
56 hours.
Is it 56? It was 218 and 28 days or something, some math like that. But when we first started, anything over 40 was overtime. So if you work 324s a week, you're making more than the chief of the department is.
Yeah.
And they figured that out quickly.
Right.
Yeah. So that,
where did you
changed.
start? What was your first department?
I started at Seagate, volunteer fire department in Oleander. And they literally just had a sign that said, be a volunteer. And I thought it was really cool to have a red light in my car.
Yeah.
Like Gall's magazines, that was the go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Gall's magazines. I wanted like a little bit of everything in there. I wanted to be the ultimate Walmart security guard look. That was the look I was going for.
Yeah. Kids at home, if you look up galls.com and you spell it wrong, you'll get a completely different website.
This is true.
Yeah.
Yes, that is absolutely true. But both are quality sites.
Both are going to yield good stuff.
Right. And typically the same people look at both sites.
Yeah.
So they may just they combined them.
Maybe that's how they came up with galls.com. Yeah,
it's a very good possibility.
Somebody just misspelled it and was like, "Oh, look, this is available."
I miss the old magazines from those. Those are great. They were really. It was like a wish list.
Nothing made you want a fresh pair of station boots like a Galls magazine.
You're right. That was the best sales pitch. Or a leather helmet.
Or a leather helmet.
Man.
Yeah.
God almighty! I looked at the price of leather helmets the other day.
I was just about to go down that road.
Holy
I was about to say,
smokes.
Did you have a leather helmet back in the day?
I never wanted it. I could never justify spending $350 when they were $350.
Right.
And then they expire every 10 years, and everybody would be like, "Oh, they're just going to wear it longer," and nobody checked. But then when they started checking, it's weird. Once they started checking, I'm sure that was a national trend, the prices doubled.
It's probably really close to tripled by now.
Yeah.
Really close.
What, like
Easy.
$700?
Oh,
What?
no.
I didn't even look, dude.
I
No,
think
dude.
it was the one I saw was over 900.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you
For
go to
what?
the...
Yeah,
Like-
and that's
like a New
the
Yorker?
basic without
Or-
borks. Just
Or
the
like
helmet.
a Phoenix or a...
No, like a Sam Houston, like
Sam
an
Houston?
N6A. Yeah. Like a...
that used to be like
N6A.
$600?
Yeah,
Yes.
if you go on like the fire store right now, like you could probably finger that to death over there. If you go to like the fire store, they got to be over $1,000. Got to be.
They got leathers from $694 to $849 for the Phoenix.
That's the Phoenix. Look at the N6A.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pricey.
Yeah. When did you move from Seagate to Winter Park? You were Winter Park, right?
Yeah.
Oh my
whatever.
God.
Like 4 months later.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
1,068 to 1,169.
That's
it is.
insane.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, you should get a leather press here.
And they are not available.
Well, nothing's available. I mean, everything shipping's backed up a long way
Due to COVID.
and they're probably not. I doubt they're using American cows because of barbed wire. There's holes in the. No kidding. Here's the stupid fact, but no kidding. It's true. The reason initially that Italian leather was so expensive is because in Italy they didn't have barbed wire fences. All the cows in America have scars all over their hides from rubbing on barbed wire. So the leather was imperfect, so it looked terrible for clothing and whatever you wanted to use it for decoratively. So they would use Italian leather, and to ship it over here was so expensive. That's why the Italian leather thing was such a...
Is that true?
Allegedly.
Hoffman, there's your Facebook clip right there.
You can fact check that, but that's something my dad told me 20 years ago.
That
I
is
just took his dad word on that.
What a mindset for a cow just to keep scratching himself on this barbed wire.
Apparently it feels really good. But I guess it's like us scratching a mosquito bite till it bleeds.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Basically,
they get bug bites all over.
your skin's not going to be as worth much if you scratch.
Yeah, that's true. You want to decrease the value of yourself if you're a food product.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I taste awful. Look, you know.
Yeah, and when I go to
Spindly.
prison,
Too muscly, no marbling.
Yeah, no marbling. Yeah. I'm not Wagyu.
if I ever go to prison, I'm going to take very poor hygiene care and make it very obvious
Yeah.
that I have very, very poor hygiene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No working out. No leg days. No squats. Yeah.
Yep. You know that disease you heard on the news that you die like 24 hours if that dude has it that you attack? I got that.
Yeah.
It's bad. I'm a carrier.
Patient zero.
Why do you think they put me here? It's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking down the whole place.
That's right. Now, on the mental health thing, that it's interesting that you guys started on that. Because I was one, being out of the game for a couple of years, even talking to you guys or even the last person I worked with on my last day, talking to whoever, if you're not in the club, even if you were in the club forever, if you're not, it's like being on a team, on a baseball team. If you're not on it, even if you used to be, even if you're the coach now, it's just not the same. It's not the same level of trust. You're not there on a day-to-day basis. You're just not in it anymore. You're outside looking in, so you're just not hearing everything. You're not in it. It's just a feeling.
When you were at Winter Park, was it a tight-knit crowd that you were with over there?
That was very tight. Yeah, so I was at Seagate first. That was more of the older, and nothing wrong, not just discarding this at all, but the blue-collar, middle-aged tow truck drivers, guys that worked at GE, Corning, salt of the earth, hardworking family guys. And I was 16 years old and ready for girls and cigarettes and beer and not 35-year-old dads.
Right.
And so Winter Park was more college kids with some really good, strong, older officers, and a couple really strong younger officers. But it was just better suited socially.
Who was the guy? Who was the strong name at Winter Park when you got there? Or were there multiple?
The initial one was Carmen Sal, now on Rescue 2 Delia. But he was actually he was working for County Fire at the Seagate station. He was the paid county employee there. And he just talked like they went out to dinner every night, and they'd spend the night either Friday or Saturday night at the station, and then whichever night they didn't spend, they'd go out to a bar, like the whole crew, like 20 guys.
Yeah.
And they would only do it one night, and they would, like, it would be known, or they talked to one of the other officers at one of the other volunteer departments and let them know that, hey, all our crowd's going out.
Right.
Or let the uppers in the department know that don't usually respond at night, hey, we're not going to be responding tonight.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It sounded fun, and I never had siblings. I didn't have much of a family. And the fire department, it seemed in my 16-year-old head, it was like Boy Scouts, but it actually had a purpose. I was always a Boy Scout, but when you get older, it kind of gets corny. Wearing the uniform, when you're the too cool for school age, like skater age, but doing something like fireman, if you have lights and people have to pull over for you, that's a different ball game. That's cool. So I was looking for the learning but fun. So it started at Seagate just to start, and then Winter Park really. It's actually very professional. That was a really good department. There's people from there have gone to the FBI, the Houston Fire Department, New York City Fire Department, DC Fire Department, the chief of the State Firemen's Association, Wilmington Fire Assistant Chief. It's like a very odd amount of names that made it. But I think a reason for that, a lot of those were the younger generation, and the reason they were there was because UNTW was right next door. So
Sure.
we had literal college students that were going to be graduating from college that were going to move on to. And the reason they were doing it was essentially for volunteer hours, community service hours, to get into these prestigious careers they wanted. Mm-hmm. I mean, I consider prestigious public service, high up public service, GS teen something.
Right.
How many years were you at Winter Park?
Oh, 7 from 90. So I started in May of, I started May of 98 in Seagate, and then I think I was at Winter Park by like November. And it wasn't like hard feelings or anything. They got it. I just wrote, I was technically in Winter Park's district by like a block. So I said, I looked and saw, and I realized that I was in Winter Park's district, and I saw the rules that I'm supposed to be a member of Winter Park. So I've spoken with them, and they agreed to transition me over if that's okay with you. And so it was, I didn't fit in. It was just oil and water.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about Chief Stute?
Oh, yeah. He was a great
Is that how you pronounce his last name?
stud with the T.
Yep, Stud with the T.
Stud with the T. He was a great, great guy. He, I don't know if did you guys know him?
Mm-mm.
I had seen him when I was running calls, but
Oh, good. Well,
when I
you
was
guys.
Myrtle Grove, but like no, never had. I don't think I ever had any real interaction with him.
Okay. So he worked for the county for mosquito enforcement.
Yeah.
He was the guy
Vector-
that sprayed
vector
vector
control.
control. Yeah. And he was essentially a heavy engine repairman. But he was doing it before internet, before diagnostics. So he knew literally every nut and bolt of every piece of machinery I've ever seen, which comes handy in the fire service. If
Sure.
a pump broke during a fire, he could literally fix it. Not the computerized of these days, but the old school. And he knew he'd been a fireman. He was just a volunteer, but he was quite literally a professional volunteer fireman. He took it very seriously. And he knew he had that blue collar street education, and he took it very seriously. I've never seen him touch alcohol. I've never heard him say a curse word. I've never seen him disrespectful to anyone. He's a really good role model. He didn't have any kids, but he treated us. And the reason I say that, he was so fatherly by nature. It was odd that he didn't have children, because he
Right.
was such a good father figure to so many people. And he's he was a blue collar guy that grew up and lived in a mobile home. And you would think that he had a doctorate with the amount of knowledge and the way he carried himself.
That's cool.
Yeah, he was a good dude. I literally couldn't say anything bad about him. And he was really hard, too. Like, he was hard on you. He would not let anything slide. I got a good story about him, actually. So we were on it was a fire. It was one of the hurricanes in the late 90s. I was a junior, I'm sure. So that's probably why I was at the truck, because, it was a working fire. I was the mule, shuffling tarps and stuff, tarps and lights and generators. So he asked me how many kilowatt hours I could get off the generator that I was pulling off the truck. Well, I have no idea.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, all of them.
Right. So he said, you really want to be on a fire call and utilize this fire equipment if you don't know what it's used for and how much, how it is properly used. He said, you need to know everything about this truck, every bit of it. It may not come into play today, but it's going to come into play, at a time when you're least expecting, and it's going to be the worst time possible. Murphy's
Right.
Law. And I'll never forget that. I still have no idea how many kilowatt hours a generator can do.
You took it to heart.
Yeah, but that's a really good point. That was always, I kept that in my little mental notebook that, there's certain things you need. I mean, we're humans. We're not going to look at every piece of equipment that we have and memorize it every single day. But the really important stuff, make sure that's there and then it works. Mm-hmm. Your go-to stuff, your tools, your whatever. And that's what I would always try and do. That really sucks when you wind up unprepared and there's a whole bunch of people there expecting you to know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, he was good for the preparation. Good guy. Cheers to him. Cheers to Chief Stute.
Yeah.
How about that?
How about that? 6 months after he retired, too.
Yeah.
I think that
Shame.
sucks.
Shame.
That stinks. Chemicals, though, that's 40 years of working around the most dangerous stuff there is.
I guess for those that don't really know, we're referring to Chief Stute that was part of the Winter Park Fire Department that just recently passed away.
Yes, Keith Stute. He was the
Stute.
chief of the Winter Park Volunteer Fire Department from... he was there from 86 to 2005, and he was the chief from 96 to 2000 or 2001. And he had been a volunteer fireman in Durham, I believe, before that. And he moved here with his family, and he worked at, I think, Case, Detroit Diesel, something like that, when he started. But he was a fireman all throughout until Winter Park closed, which he had retirement age anyway. He was good. But yeah, he was a good guy. I hate to see that. It seems I'm at the age, we are getting to the age where the chiefs that we started with, or the senior, not necessarily chiefs, but the guys that we started with that we looked up to, they're starting to get old.
Yep.
They're starting to pass, and we're turning into the older guys. Or we're even starting to retire. People our age.
You guys are. I'm not.
Those guys. That's right.
Yeah.
You're one bad limb away from it.
Yeah. True.
I do not want to give bad karma to you, though.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. Don't put that juju on me.
Steve's in his prime.
It's sandy soil here. You bounce. It's good. It's mostly safe. EMS is great here.
Yeah. I'm in my prime.
Speaking of EMS,
You are 28.
Speaking of EMS, how did your road take you from fire service to working the streets in an ambulance? Most of us are so anti that. I would say for the majority. There's a few of us, Jeremy, ex-Chief Merrill. There's a few of us that have ventured over there, but I would say for the vast majority of the fire service, the around the back of the hot box is not the forte.
Yeah, that's a really solid question. And so the brotherhood aspect's the best part of the fire service, right?
Absolutely,
Right.
Hands down.
So when I was volunteering, and it's a totally different. Have you guys all volunteered somewhere? Mm-mm. Okay, have you?
Nope.
Never volunteered, just pay. Okay,
That's right.
So the vibe with volunteering is more like hobby friendship, like being on a fantasy football team, like at work, or like your buddies at work that you're tight with, but they're not like family. They're like really, really good friends. But you go home at the end of the day. Fire service, you're working together every third day. You know literally when they go to the bathroom, or when you don't want to be around them because of what they ate.
Right.
You know everything about them.
Yeah.
So you just build either you're going to hate each other or love each other, or if you do hate each other, you can hate them, but nobody else can.
Right.
It's just it's a tight bond. It's a family. And I didn't have that. When I started as a professional fireman, it was one person in a station from 8 to 5. It was literally just a county job. It wasn't. It was fire service, but it was you were treated as a county employee and not as a fireman. And you're alone. So, and there were not a lot of fires. You were typically alone at the slower stations. And what are you going to do by yourself anyway? You're just waiting for other people to get there or setting stuff up, getting ready.
Rock floors.
Yeah. Yep. So it didn't really have the fire service vibe. And when I started $8 an hour. And if I was willing to get my EMT, they pay me $8.50. So
Mercy.
Yes.
That's a hell of a raise.
And I knew when I was in high school, I knew I wanted to, you got paid more money if you were going to be an EMT. So I could take my EMT classes while I was in high school. So I did that. So I could start at $8.50. And so then as a fireman full-time, I was looking at the options. I think the starting was $24,600 in like 2002.
It was a little higher than that.
Maybe it's 27.6.
27.
It wasn't
27.
much.
27.
I was about to say it wasn't much.
Yeah.
I started.
28.
Yeah,
I think it's like
Wasn't-
28.
Yeah.
So 28, and then the starting pay for paramedics was right at $40,000
No.
with overtime working night shift. It was
Working
rough.
night shift,
Yes.
yes.
It was right at $40,000. So I was thinking I'm already working.
I started out full time EMS making $13.05.
But this is also what year was that?
2003.
Right, I'm talking like 2008, after you guys had gotten that big raise.
2008. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that I didn't start with EMS till 2008 or 2007. I started. I started in 2006, but not with New Hanover. They required you to have a couple of years of experience as a paramedic somewhere else. So since I had worked for them on the EMS 500, a rescue truck with a fireman and a medic. So that was another thing. I was on a special rescue truck that we used to have that New Hanover County Fire, when I worked for New Hanover County Fire, had, that you were riding shotgun in a medium-duty rescue truck that was owned by the hospital that had, Jeremy was one.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yeah,
I was on it.
yeah, he was. That's how I know him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he was a special ops medic. So essentially, he's a fireman that doesn't fight fire with a rescue technician on a rescue truck because the fire department didn't have one on that side of the county at that time. So we could go on any call we wanted to, literally anywhere in the county we wanted to go, and then anything serious. So that was a really cool job. And so that was my taste of EMS, that you're actually with somebody. You can go, and there's no tight rules. You want to go to lunch, go to lunch. And this was back in the day where you had to be in a dress uniform all day. You were not allowed to go to eat lunch at all. If you wanted to leave, you had to say it on the radio. I mean, the fire service, you were stuck at the station unless you went. Actually, I think there was a rule for a while. You were allowed to leave once a day, and it was just to go get, you had to get all your meals for the day, one trip.
There was a fuel consumption policy at one point.
Yeah. And that was kind of always the once they got GPS on the trucks, you were getting micromanaged in the fire service. Asking, what are you doing? I see you've been sitting at food line for 30 minutes, and it looks like you're behind it. What are you doing?
Mercy.
Really?
Yeah.
It's 2 p.m. I'm making all my crack deals. What do you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
But it just seemed to be at that time more camaraderie. I was incorrect. This is an outsider looking in. But more camaraderie, more money, more opportunity. And this is, me young without a lot of experience. So I went to paramedic school, which can't say is a bad decision. It worked out well. But the burnout rate is tremendously faster with EMS. That's what I would say. I feel like I made personally way more of a difference as a paramedic than I did as a fireman, just because I was by myself at very slow stations. I did not have many fires. And there's a ton of use for EMS here, and the EMS service is really good here. So looking back on it, I wish I'd have been a fireman forever, because now I'd be, I don't know if I'd be promoted or not, but I'd at least have
a lot
the
of time
same,
in.
a lot of time, decent salary, and I'd be able to retire soon. I went from a department with state retirement to a department without. I didn't, but you're young. You don't think about that. You just want what's fun right then.
Yeah.
And I really didn't think that I passed paramedic school. I thought I'd fail out the first week. I mean, it's like a 99%, I can't think of the name of the word, but like attrition rate, right. Yeah, so literally the first day of class, the
Which
teacher...
school is that from?
Johnson Community College.
That's a 99% fail rate?
It was 96 or something.
Jesus.
So we started 68 people. Well, EMS is huge in volunteer EMS is like volunteer fire departments in counties where volunteer fire is big.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but volunteer EMS is a huge community there. So everybody wants to be a paramedic. So we started 68 people in our class, and 8 passed.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and
pretty
literally,
accurate numbers.
Our teacher said, "Look to your left, look to your right." At the end of this class, neither one of them will be there, and it was no joke. It was literally one of those huge auditorium class, like college classrooms, and like on the first day, she was like, "We won't be in here for the rest of the class. This is just for the first day." And sure enough, second day, half the class wasn't there. Once they realized how
crazy.
hard it was going to be, and then they just kept. We lost a guy the last day.
No.
The last day before graduation. It was after all the class testing, everything was done. You had to make drug cards. You had to write them out on 3x5s or type them and print them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was the early days of printing on the internet. So he found them on the internet and printed them and lied about it. But he left the HTTP, like the website address at the bottom. On one of them. Yeah. So, and they said and the guy was his second career. He was like 40 something. And he's like, all right, honesty is over everything in this job. You're by yourself. You could be by yourself with a naked young girl. We have to know that you're 100% honest. Did you make these drug cards? Yes, I did. Okay, bye. That's it. Done. 2 years of school down the toilet.
I wrote that part on there.
Yep. But I'll give it to the guy. Apparently, he came back 2 months later and did the whole thing again and passed.
Wow.
Give that to him. I mean, lesson learned. Everybody screwed. I don't even remember what the question was. I'm sorry.
Talking about
That wasn't really a question.
transitioning into EMS from fire service. Yeah.
At the time, it seemed like it was a better way to. I wanted to run as many calls as I possibly could.
Yeah.
I wanted to be busy. I wanted to go to somewhere like FDNY, but I'd moved all over the country as a kid with my parents, and I just wanted a stable place to work. And I was literally getting depressed sitting at the fire station by myself.
Yeah.
I went like 7 months without running a call at Federal Point.
That seems like
Without
such
running
a
one
shit
call.
assignment, doing the whole one man.
Sucks.
Oh, yeah. It's not fun.
At 18 with no fire experience.
Yeah.
Let's not skip over the most important aspect of your young fire career, of the most famous save in New Hampshire County Fire Rescue history that brought you onto Good Morning America. Can you please reflect on that experience?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard.
Was
to
it Good Morning America?
Talk about heroics of yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, it was.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it was Today's Show.
Today's Show. The
But,
Today Show.
It was
sorry.
on some other stuff. My mom was working in China as a teacher. She taught English businessmen, like as a contractor, and she saw it in the Chinese English newspaper there. But they probably just picked up random American AP stories,
Right,
and it
right.
hit the AP, the Associated Press Newswire. But yeah, it was a structure fire in our neighboring district, the 18th district, off of Antoinette Drive, I think. And it was the middle of the day, just nothing, room and contents, fire, easy peasy. We're the fourth truck in. I mean, we're literally. I mean,
I was at that one.
Yeah, I was the driver, and I just had my pants on, walked up to the house. I mean, there was nothing for me to do. It was a 50 gallons and out fire, room
Right.
and contents. And so they're mopping up, and so I'm standing at the front door, literally just seeing if I can help with hall runners or something. And somebody throws out this dog, and it literally, like, I catch it just right at my feet, and it's like a chihuahua. I was like, this sucks, it's a dead dog. And the owner comes running up, screaming over one shoulder that it's her baby, please save it. And then over the other shoulder, the news comes up. Okay, so I didn't say this. The news was the 911 caller. They were filming for a completely unrelated story across the street and witnessed this house catch on fire. So they filmed it from start to finish. They had great stock footage for this fire.
Yeah.
So it was just the set of circumstances were unique. So it was the Christmas after 9/11. Right before Christmas, the owner of the house, husband had just died. He was killed, traumatically murdered. So she had just moved here because of that. She got the dog as a replacement companion. She had no other family, and she had lost her house. She'd lost a bunch. Anyway, it's just a traumatic set of events for this poor lady. And but anyway, back to the scenario. So I'm outside, fourth truck in. Like, I know I'm going to be rolling hose. That's why I'm there. I was driving the last in truck. And they throw out this dog. It lands, either I catch it or it's right at the grass at my feet. And the news camera that had been there the entire time is right at my shoulder. I can see the lens over my shoulder, and this lady screaming, "Save my dog," right here. And I looked at the dog, and the dog takes like a guppy breath and starts seizing. And then it stops breathing, but it's still seizing.
Right.
So it's in respiratory arrest, but it's still obviously alive at seizing. And I'm on TV and with an owner screaming, "Save my dog," and I'm in a uniform. I mean, I was a volunteer at the time. I was volunteering that day.
Right.
So I was like, well, I don't know, mouth to mouth. I mean, it doesn't need CPR because it's seizing. It has a pulse,
Right.
clearly. So give it some breaths. Just give it some air. It's been in a smoky... The fire had been out for like 5 minutes. So it was still really smoky. But it wasn't hot conditions. So the dog was not burned at all. Just trying to give a visual for this. So, yeah, a couple breaths. The dog started like violently seizing and clenched. And there was the EMS truck that I work on when I'm working as a firefighter was there, that EMS 500 truck there for rehab with a paramedic on it. So what do you do as a firefighter EMT when you drag out a victim? You take him to the medics and go about your business. So I take the dog to the medic that's there and say, "Hey, this was just brought out of the fire. Here you go." And he said, "That's not a human. That's not my problem." And just turned around and walked away.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool.
So the camera's still on me. The lady's still screaming, "Save my dog." So it stopped breathing again. Started seizing. So I started doing it again for like 30 or 40 seconds. This all transpired in 90 seconds, by the way.
Right.
This whole story was 90 seconds
Yeah.
long. So the dog, maybe 10 seconds more of mouth to mouth, and the dog wakes up like a light switch, coughs a couple times, and I hand him to the owner, and the dog's good to go. Took him to the vet, clean bill of health, just had some soot in the lungs. I mean, just had just smoke inhalation.
Yeah.
It was just unconscious from lack of oxygen for a little bit, or too much carbon dioxide. But it was totally fine. So I didn't think much of it. I got a call from the news that asked if they could do an interview, like WCT, the local news. So sure. Then the next morning, I had an old school alarm clock that would wake up at the radio, and I was going to work at the fire station to Ogden the next morning. So the alarm went off, and it was John Boy and Billy, regional radio program out of Charlotte. And they were talking about me. But, it's that foggy, like I'm just waking up, like I'm hearing this wrong. They were talking about that call. And I was like, oh shit, they were. Huh? Well, that's a state show. That's cool. You know.
Yeah.
Made it over state news. So then I turned TV on while I'm taking a shower, getting ready for work, and when I turn it on, they're talking about, like, Katie Couric's talking about it on the Today Show. It's like, no shit, this made like the national news blip. It's all right. And then somebody called me and said, you're on the cover of the news, the local news, like the paper. So that's cool. But, we're still thinking local or just a blip. Then I got to work, and Dan Bosio was the house captain there. He was lieutenant at the time.
Bubba.
Yeah, and so my schedule, I worked 8 to 5. So I got at the fire department at 8. They'd already been on shift for an hour. So he, like, slammed the door open when I was getting out of my car, and he's like, if I get one more fucking phone call from somebody from TV, you're going home for the day, and I can justify it, sending you home. And I was like,
That's perfect.
what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
He's like, you did that bullshit yesterday, and now you've got Inside Edition. I don't even know why the fuck you gave him this phone number, but they're calling. I don't know how they got the number, but it was before, like, everybody had cell phones. So, yeah, apparently it had been calling off the hook. I mean, I don't know what to do. And so I just said, well, give him my cell phone number. I did have a cell phone, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't common to get cell phone numbers then. So, yeah, I just started getting random producers calling me and asking me to go on shows, or like potential, like you're on the lineup. It depends on what happens.
Right.
If Iran gets nuked, you're not going to be on the show.
Right.
But yeah, so it was on a bunch of random national, like, all Inside Edition, those shows, and then I actually interviewed on Connie Chung's CNN. She had a CNN show. But that was a bizarre situation. Like the one time on a call where I did absolutely nothing and deserved 0 credit. I got national
You
thousands.
saved a dog, man.
I did. I literally did
It
nothing.
was all you. It was all you. You did it.
That
That's all
story
that's needed.
still circulates around County Fire.
It's great.
Oh, man.
I got thousands
You
of
are a
emails.
hero.
It's ridiculous.
You're famous.
That was
That's
not,
awesome.
but it was a feel good story after 9/11. I
Sure.
firmly believe that.
Christmas?
Yeah. That was really
sense.
embarrassing, though. What I was thinking, that was in the days where there was a big, let's say, not a lot of camaraderie between city fire and county fire.
Yeah.
There was a bit of, they were an old traditional department. They've been around for 100 years, and New Hanover County was 1-year-old toddler. And they were the older cousin, the cooler older brother. And I knew it was bullshit. They knew it was bullshit. And I'm going to be on national news talking about this like a hero. Oh, what an asshole. And sure enough, I talked to city guys later and like, yeah, we made fun of you really hard. Oh, you're that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
awesome.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yep, we were watching that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
So
story.
was that your first introduction to being on TV? Because you've been on since.
Well, I mean, this is a weird town, though, because we film movies here, so it's not
Right.
uncommon to walk into a bar and see like Katie Holmes. It's not. I mean, it would be something you'd call a friend and be like, "Dude, Katie Holmes in the bar," but it's not like if you were in Wyoming, Ohio, and actually she's from there, but bad example. But
Yeah.
if you're just some random Kansas
How do you
town
know
and
that?
some movie star walks in.
Botankus, Dukeland County.
I know this because a friend of mine in high school was her next door neighbor, and her car had Ohio tags, and it was a Del Sol. I only know this because she was super hot and lived next door to my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were, and it wasn't
yeah.
a thing. So like
Started
the
to
being
make-
on TV thing, you could be anybody could be an extra
Yeah.
on a TV show, and you could watch 6 months later on a national TV show and see yourself on TV. It wasn't a big thing. So I mean, probably for like a news something, or I was an extra on Dawson's Creek in high school, but.
Same.
Haven't you done something else though since then?
Yeah, I did. So I did some. I mean, like I did an extra on Dawson's Creek as a kid, and then I would do like I really wanted to get to be an actor, but I mean it's 99% make less than 1% of the money. There's no money in that for real, unless you got family money or a hookup or get lucky, and it happened.
Right.
So I just did it to play. I went down the normal career, and then I would try to pick up like extra, where they were looking for something really specific. Like not like we're looking for 300 people to look like a carnival. That looks like it sucks. But we're looking for one dude who's an experienced weightlifter. We're going to focus on you, and then the main actor comes in. That sounds like a good thing because you're getting exposure. You're the only person there. So I would apply for those. So even if you get 1 out of 100,
Right.
it's still much better than one with a ton of people there.
Did
And
you land any of those?
Yeah. I got I would typically only put in for things that I thought I had a good chance of getting. But I I did a couple for one trio, and also like set medic. Stand in as a medic for things as well. So yeah, I mean that's just such easy money. And the city fire here really has a tight lock. I mean they got in it with Firestarter in the '80s. City Fire did, and they never let go. And I can't blame them for it. Mm-hmm. And they take care of their own. So I've only been able to get a day here and there, but over the years. But yeah, I'll take it when it comes. It's cool. At least I have my name in the hat. But it's parts. There is no like hookup or. I mean, they're in a totally different world. You are nothing to them unless you are one of the really important people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, as far as parts go, I really wanted to get a part on the TV show 6 about Navy SEALs. I thought that would be super cool. I mean, you're getting to pretend to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
So yeah, I put in for that. I like researched as much as I could and auditioned for it. And it was at Screen Gym Studios, the movie studios. And it was probably 100 of us in a line. And this dude, this short, skinny guy, who was the technical advisor, he was an actual retired Navy SEAL. He was like 40 years old, skinny. He looked like a little skater dude. Or a guy that would work in, like an internet tech guy with the horn rim glasses that looks like he's not strong enough to lift the hood of his car. Retired Navy SEAL who runs a marathon a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I don't pick fights.
Yeah.
Because I don't judge well.
Yeah.
So anyway, he walked up real quietly and he's real cool. He's like, "Hey, my name's Mitch. How about all you guys stand at attention?" And so anybody that didn't know how to stand at attention is like, "Okay, you guys can go. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it." And so, I mean, because they don't want to teach from the ground up.
No, yeah.
Right. So if you could do it attention. And then he walked by everybody else and he had an M16 and he handed the M16. He said, "Hold this like I would." And so if you'd obviously never held a gun, okay, we really appreciate you coming out. Thanks, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
And so I held it appropriately, I suppose, good enough. And cast me. It was like 15 of us got cast out of, I don't know how many people auditioned. They auditioned 100 people, and I don't know how people put in for it, but yeah, like 15 of us. That was fun. I couldn't do it full time though, because of, I was on the job. I was working.
Sure.
But that was cool. I didn't, obviously got no fame or notoriety from it, but just getting to be, I can always say, I was not a Navy SEAL, but I played one on TV, and it's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got pictures of me in a Navy SEAL uniform, so I can get killed for pretending to be a Navy SEAL. So I've got a lot of options for the future.
Yeah.
There.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, sky's the limit. Yeah. Stealing glory, one billboard away from it.
Mercy.
Yeah. But no, that's fun. I recommend it. It's not as it's kind of like one of those bucket list things. If you've never been on an airplane, you got to fly on an airplane. You just got to do it for the experience. You can't explain what it's like. Mm-hmm. If you haven't been to the mountains, you can't explain to somebody what the mountains are like. If you haven't been in the ocean, you can't explain what that's like. It's kind of one of those things. It's such a unique process, the way it works, and the slow as it goes, and technical. If you're interested in science and learning things, it is its own animal that is not reproducible in any way. Well, this is actually kind of close. It's got the audio part of it.
Yeah.
But it's wild that, just how much money goes into a day. Like a day of filming is $1 million. That's insane.
That is insane.
We talked a lot about your accolades when you were in the service and all that. Why do you not do it now?
Which service?
Fire service or EMS?
First responder.
I know you. Yeah, we all know you. But you're not currently serving in the first responder community anymore. Why not?
I didn't really plan on getting out. It wasn't a well thought out process, but neither was getting in. I started dating Leanne, and I dated a lot of girls, and I never had that feeling that like, oh, this is the one. I did. I had what I thought was the feeling, but you can fool yourself with feelings at times. But
sure.
This is a really good girl. It was a chick that I'd known for like 8 years. We started dating. I'd known her for 8 years, and we bump into each other a lot, and we Facebook message just plutonic. So bumped into her randomly, started dating, and it was right. She found out she was going to PA school like the same week, and it was going to be in 3 months. Or two, maybe less than that, maybe 2 months, but in Charleston. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. Well, we started really getting along well. So then she's moving there, and then I'm finding myself going there once a week. So I'm doing shift trades like twice a week. I switched to night shift. So then I'm working all nights, like 4 nights in a row. And then after my fourth night, not sleeping all night, driving to Charleston. And I mean, did that for like 3 or 4 months. And I mean, the chance of me getting a wreck and dying are getting higher and higher. Because I'm getting to her house and I'm a zombie after being awake for like 40 hours. I mean, so I got to make a decision. Either I can't go as much, or I need to do something insane. You know, would give up a retirement and move. And I don't have a family. I don't have anybody here.
Right.
Not in state retirement. I have enough. I've got 20 years in for the state retirement. You know, at least I've got that. So at least that's coming at 55. I've got it's an 11-year hospital pension that's worth. So you know, just that by itself at 55 is like maybe $700 a month. I'm just kind of doing this mental math.
Right.
And why not? I never moved anywhere else. I have nothing here. I have nothing holding me here. So I got a job working EMS in South Carolina. They would, the only thing I knew. Just I didn't want to work for Tri. I did not want to be in a busy ass department again and get running my ass off in a place I don't know. The hottest shit with literally a million tourists. I mean, and I've done that before. It's miserable.
Yeah.
It's fun, a great experience, but at the point in my career, I was not up for that. And so I got a job at a neighboring little department, and they do this crazy overtime. It's forced overtime. So by their policy, you have to be an employee there for 30 days for this county. It's a county department. And then you can do overtime, and there's no limit on the overtime if you're forced. And somebody calls out every day, and if you're the lowest man on the totem pole in your shift, you're the guy that's forced. So somebody checks every single shift. So I was going to be forced like 140 hours. And I went to work for one day. I wasn't even within my 30 days done yet where I was even allowed to be forced over. And I was going to be forced for 96 hours on my first ever shift. And so I said, I'm not doing that. By the schedule, by your rules in the county, I'm not allowed to do this for 30 days and I have plans tomorrow. I can't do this. I didn't prepare for this. I understand you do forced overtime, but by your own rules, I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not prepared to do this.
Right.
And so he said, okay, I'll pass it on to the chief. So the 2 days went off. I checked my email to see what station I was at, and I couldn't log into my email. So I called the IT people, and they said, you call HR and ask them. So I called HR, and they said, it says you're no longer an employee. I said, I'm sorry, what? This is like, I've been there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It says you're no longer an employee, that you resigned. And I said, can you give me any more details? She said, let me look up the note. She said, the chief has a note that he emailed you, called you, and went by your house and got no response multiple times. And so he took that as a resignation. I didn't get a phone call or an email, nothing. He literally just deleted me from the membership of the ballsy move. But
yeah.
I mean, because my story sounds, I didn't even try to argue it with HR because my story sounds crazy. No, he didn't call me, text me, or come by my house ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what's going to happen. I've been there 2 weeks. So the guy ended up getting fired like 3 months later. He was a brand new chief that was supposed to turn around a corrupt department. But anyway, when I was there for 2 weeks, and their department just switching, like can't teach an old dog new tricks. New Hanover is a great department, one of the best in the nation. And going to a rural, different state, different quality of care service, I was not impressed. And I didn't want to sacrifice patient care for the one serious call I had was somebody who shot himself in the head. He was a bedbound patient, tried to commit suicide by shooting himself in the head. And he was conscious. His daughter came home and found him. He'd done a couple hours earlier, but was still awake. So we're an hour. I asked my partner, who was the lieutenant, and the battalion chief is coming. So I asked my partner, how far away is this address from a trauma center? And she said, it's like an hour and 40 minutes driving time. I said, do we have helicopters? And she said, yeah, why? And I said, well, let's get one on standby for this.
Yeah.
And she said, we don't do that. I said, well, are you allowed to do it? She said, yeah, but nobody ever has. So I said, okay, we're going to do that. And then I'm talking to the lieutenant.
Yeah.
So, of course, I land this helicopter in this guy's yard, and 10 minutes later, he's at a trauma center. It's one of the, I guess they like the thrill of showing up with something cool. I don't know if that's what it is, but I got an attitude for calling a helicopter for somebody who shot himself in the head that was conscious. And it was legit through his temporal lobe.
Yeah.
And I was the weirdo for trying to get him help to a trauma center quickly. Yeah. I just thought it was a very odd mindset, but yeah, whatever. So anyway, I just realized that I think I was programmed here, and my career was here, and it's time to hang it up.
At least for now. You were done.
Yeah, at least take a
now.
break.
Sure.
Yeah. So then I just got a regular civilian job, and until she was done, and then I was considering coming back, definitely coming back here part time. I was debating on fire department or EMS. I was really leaning towards fire department just for fun, you know. I mean, I really enjoy it. I mean, I don't want to sound insulting, not like that, but I mean to do it as a job. But it would be enjoyable. I miss the fire service. Yeah. But then I had a seizure. After she graduated, after I resigned from the job I had in Charleston, we're moving back here, and I had apparently my parents told me I had a couple seizures for like 1 to 3 years old, 2 or 3 of them. And the doctor, I mean, this is like early 80s. The doctor called it breath holding because they didn't want to classify it as a seizure. Because there's so many things you can't do. You can't be the military. You can't be a pilot. You can't scuba dive. You know, the list. You can't be a truck driver. The list goes on and on if you were labeled as a seizure patient.
Right.
So they said, if he has another one, you're gonna have to be honest about this.
Yeah.
Later in life. But nothing until I was like 36. We were on a cruise for her graduation in the Caribbean. Last day, the morning, we were getting off the ship. We were literally eating breakfast, and they're calling names like alphabetically. You get off by your letter of your name. So we're waiting on our names, and I didn't know anything happened. I was leaning over tying my shoes, and then my eyes were open looking up, and it was just 1 second. And apparently it was 45 minutes. I seized for 11 minutes and was postdictal. I can't do that math, but 30-something minutes.
Yeah.
34 minutes. Yeah, my wife's she's a PA. She's a good historian. She's qualified to make a determination of what a seizure is. I didn't believe it. I said, no, I didn't. I'm fine. Stood up, but I bit my tongue pretty bad, and my shoulders had been dislocated. So, yeah, I had a seizure. So I was terrified that, I had 36 and first time ever seizure, and there's no reason. There's been no drug. There's no chemicals that would cause it, no medicine that would cause it, no nothing environmental that should have caused anything.
No bump on the head.
Yeah, nothing should have happened. And I evaluate myself. She evaluated. The only thing we both could think of was, brain tumor. It's got to be brain tumor. I don't have seizures. And so I was just totally somber, riding in an ambulance to the hospital and get CAT scanned and 30-minute wait. And so the doctor came back in. He's like, well, he starts talking about, and I was like, no, was the CT clean? Just yes or no. I just want to know that. And he said, yeah. And after he said I didn't have brain cancer, I didn't really care. I can do whatever else. Okay, cool. I got seizures. Yeah. Sweet, man. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Good deal. Someone has one of these every now and then? All right.
Yeah.
We can work with that. So anyway, I was just in the hospital a couple of days and got on medicine. But I got real sick 10 years ago, and they think it was from that. How about them apples?
Real sick with the flu?
I thought it was heartburn So I was 31. I'm 39 now. So I had I just thought I'd gotten fat. Not fat, but I put on 50 pounds, but I wouldn't work out much and just eat, you peaks and valleys. Mm-hmm. And I was in a valley of just not taking care of myself, but I wasn't terribly out of shape at all. I didn't look abnormal. It was not morbidly obese or anything. I was just chunky, husky.
Yeah.
So, I had heartburn. I just attributed to that. I'm 30 something. I'm gaining weight, getting older. I'll deal with it later. I'll go to the gym or whatever. And it would go away with Prilosec. And it didn't seem like a big deal, but it was 9 months. But people have heartburn. I had heartburn when I was a kid during stressful situations. It's not a big deal. And then one day I went to Buffalo Wild Wings and I was with a friend of mine who dared me to eat the hottest of the hot wings that they have. So I had those and one vodka Red Bull, at lunchtime. And I had a hellacious heartburn, bad. And I knew our medical director was working at Cape Fear at the hospital. So I was like, I'm going to get him to hook me up with a GI cocktail. It's just lidocaine and Maalox. I know this is from this hot-ass hot wings. And I don't want to throw it up. That's going to be even worse.
Yeah.
So just get that and I'll be good. So I went there, and he is a stickler. And he made me check in. I was just wanting, it's over-the-counter medicine, but it's hard to find stuff. So I was hoping he just hooked me up. But no, he made me get at least an ultrasound. So I was like, all right, fine. Whatever, insurance. So I was expecting to be in and out. Coworkers are coming in and talking to me. I'm fine. And so after that, he's like, well, we're going to get an IV and do a couple more things. And during the ultrasound, like I knew the dude, there's ultrasound. I mean, I work at this hospital. And it's taken forever. Like he's so slow, but I've never really paid attention to how long patients are gone when they're in ultrasound. I just thought it was normal. So I was like, after he was done, I was like, so all my organs there, everything's good. He's like, well, and this is a really cool dude that would be like, yeah, man, everything's there except your ovaries. He's that kind of guy. And
Who is that?
I don't know his name. So, but this was the ultrasound tech. So he's totally chill. And I was like, so, everything good? All my organs there? And he's like, well, the doctor will talk to you about it shortly. And I was like, whoa, I just turned into like a patient. What up, dude? What's going on? And the whole mode changed. And then they came in, being a paramedic and working in the ER, I understand, what level of things are happening. I got a second IV. And they said, well, this one might not flush good for the CT. Well, what are we talking about? I'm not, what? Yeah. And then they did an ABG, which is an arterial blood gas, and that's pretty serious. You're getting into some, unless it's for asthma. You're getting a potential, like they're looking for metabolic disturbances in your blood that are serious in the arterial system. So this is kind of getting concerning. And then the nurse came in and gave me a milligram of Ativan. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, I literally just came here for heartburn.
Yeah. And
then an EKG. And it's just more and more testing, and then more vials of blood for more tests. And the doctor came in, and he's like, well, I need you to be honest with me. Have you done anything or been exposed to anything, chemicals, drugs, anything? I mean, other than at work. I have no idea what could have been exposed to at work, but no, I had a Red Bull and vodka before I came here. No. Otherwise, no, nothing out of the ordinary. And he said, well, it looks like you got pancreatitis. Your pancreas is enlarged and your lipase is 14,000. So your lipase right now is between 0 and 80. 14,000, it's kind of like RPMs. 6,000, it's going to blow. 14,000, there's no engine in the car anymore.
Right.
So I was at 14,000. And they didn't know why. It was too swollen to see the imaging. So I still didn't really understand about how serious that was. They just told me I was going to be transferred to Hanover. So I was still kind of happy to look.
Lipase is breaking down every lipid molecule you have.
Yeah, not good.
All your cell wall bodies, everything.
Yeah. I did not realize how serious that was, but I was in it. The doctor knew it. The reason he gave me Ativan is because he was going to break the news to me how sick I was. But I didn't really process. I mean, I'm young, 30, healthy. Even if it's serious, it's not serious. It's not cancer.
Right.
I didn't get my head cut off. I'm all right. Yeah. Whatever it is, I'm sick. It'll be fine. So that was like the last thing I remember. I remember being transferred from the tertiary hospital to the big hospital from Cape Fear to New Hanover. And then it's just a couple vague memories. And so I don't know. It's better to tell the story as it went or how it went for me. What do you guys think? Like how it actually went?
Yeah,
how it went for me?
Yeah.
All right. So I remember a vague memory, like after I got to New Hanover, of one of my friends who's one of the house managers, nurses, helping me walk to the bathroom to pee, which is an odd memory for a lucid adult to have. But
right.
Anyway. Yeah. And I remember like a vague memory. It's almost like she was like helping me pee like a toddler. But it feels like a dream, but it was real. That was apparently was real. So I had heart failure, renal failure, lung failure. Well, anyway, I didn't even know any of this, if we're going to do it that way. So I wake up. I'm obviously in a hospital. I'm laying on the floor, like as low, like not a regular bed, like the hospital bed's all the way down. And I'm like positioned like Jesus, and I can't move, and I can't sit up. I got a restraint over my chest. So if you're unconscious, you can't undo this stuff. It's complicated. But if you're conscious, you can. It's just knots.
Right.
So I could bite my wrist and undo that, and then I could undo my chest and the other wrist because I had to pee really bad. I knew I was in a hospital. I wasn't like fearful, and I remember that I'd gone into the hospital. So I thought, I must have gotten fucked up on that pain medicine, and I slept all night, and I just woke up. I didn't know I was strapped down.
Yeah.
So there's a nurse charting like to my back, and I sit up. I'm gonna pee. There's a toilet right here. I didn't know what room I was in. I didn't know where I was. And he like shit his pants. The nurse did. He didn't. I guess he didn't expect me to wake up right then. But he was like, whoa, 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 because I was, getting up. I didn't realize I had a Foley catheter in. I had a central line in, which is a line that is an IV catheter, like that would go in your arm, but it goes from a main vessel directly into your heart. One of the main vessels that come off your heart into your heart. And it can tear your heart if it's ripped out. I mean, it's really dangerous, or it can get infected. But anyway, so I didn't know any of this stuff. So he was freaked out that I was going to rip that stuff out. And he thought I was altered. He had no idea. I had no idea. But we were both equally confused as to why the other was acting the way they were acting.
Right.
So it was kind of it would have been a funny moment to video, actually.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
So, that would have been kind of interesting. But he was like, what day is it? What's your name? And I was like, Andrew, what's your name? And he told me his. And he said, what's going on? And I said, what's happening? And he's like, you tell me what's happening. I said, I'm in the hospital. He said, where? I said, I'm guessing Duke or Chapel Hill. No, this was after. No, all right. So sorry. Let me back up. I said, he asked me what day it was. I said, I have no idea what day it is. I'm guessing Sunday because I came in on Saturday. He's like, no, it's Tuesday. I said, shit, I missed 2 days. He said, what? You've been intubated for 27 days. You've been in the hospital for like 34 days. I was like, what the fuck?
That's got to be crazy.
Yeah,
to hear.
it was. I was like, no way. Because I felt totally normal.
Yeah.
Until I tried to stand up.
Sure.
And then I had no strength. And I didn't have to pee. I had a Foley catheter, and it was just that false feeling. So it's like I didn't even realize couldn't comprehend the gravity of this. I mean, how do you wrap your head around, like, you wake up in the morning and somebody tells you that you've like been in a time machine for a month and a half? It's not even like scary or sad or weird. It's just strange. Mm-hmm. And, so I was dating a chick who was a nurse at the time. When I was in the ER as a joke, there was like 2 EMS crews and a nurse that I was friends with in my hospital room in the ER when I first went there, when I thought it wasn't serious. And they, the registration person came in and said, would you like to remain private while you're in here? And literally my room's doors open and there's 7 people in here. I was like, yep, better be private. I don't want anybody to know I'm here. Totally joking. She marked me as private.
Oh, yeah.
Then the next day I'm unconscious and intubated. They can't even tell my parents because I was marked private. So I had no visitors. Nobody even knew I was sick. I don't have any family in town.
We knew you were in there, and we knew that you were marked private. Like, the rumor was like...
It was just a joke. I had no idea I was sick.
There was like a rumor like, Drew's in there. It's real bad. And he's marked where nobody wants to talk to him. And I'm like, and we're all like... holy shit, what the hell did he do to himself? Like, what did he do? Like we all thought you did something to harm yourself. Like, it was literally that was the mentality of like, holy shit, what the fuck did he do? And it's like, he's in there for like a month.
What a shitty circumstance.
And nobody can.
And he doesn't, he's in the ICU and he's conscious. Sorry, my wife asked me what I was doing. So
you want me to take a picture?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and nobody knew what
did
was.
a real good job at that.
Nobody knew why. Nobody knew what was happening.
My front-facing camera's broken. Sorry.
But yeah,
There you go. Just take a picture and send it to her.
Yeah,
there you go.
sweat.
Perfect.
I remember that. It was like, everybody's like, nobody
Hello,
can.
Leanne.
Like, according to Drew, he's not in there. He's private.
Right.
Like, but we knew you were in there.
It was totally by accident. But that's the worst fucking possible scenario to happen. If you're going to come back to normal and you have to go back to work because the rumor mill is going to be so fucking thick.
It was
Especially
so
if you
thick.
come back normal.
Thick.
Yeah.
Yeah. You better be missing a leg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was out for a long fucking time. So anyway, after I woke up, once I get the story of what happened, I'm in fucking shock. So the story was that I had pancreatitis. My gallbladder was infected. I was in heart failure, renal failure. I had pulmonary edema, so essentially lung failure. I was septic, and I had elevated blood sugar. So there's a statistical chart, like you put in the data, and it gives your outcome chances, probability of life.
Yeah.
Mine was 0% chance of life for any age group. Complete, like literally 0. If 2 of those make 0, and I had 6, like literally the only one that I didn't have was that I wasn't over 65. But my primary physician, like my doctor's office doctor, has hospitalist privileges at the hospital. So she's also a doctor that takes care of you in the ICU, coincidentally. Mm-hmm. And so she was my hospital doctor as well, so she's my primary doctor. So, when I did a follow-up with her afterwards, she'd been the person taking care of me. And I was like, how bad was it? What's up? And she said, you were on hospice and you were on palliative care. And I consulted with, I guess, epidemiologist at Duke. That was an expensive referral. I found out later. But it was just last-ditch effort. Like, do you have advice on a last-ditch? As a young guy, don't know why this happened, but he's got, obviously, some funky infection. We're not beating it. And it's last-ditch. He's going to hospice. You got any combination of shit you want to mix that you'd recommend? And so he recommended something. And so I was on, like, hospice. They didn't have a bed in hospice, so I was just in hospice in the hospital. And extubated, palliative care, done. And I just turned around. But it's, I mean, they say 0% chance, but I mean, how many calls have we been on where, like, yep, everybody's dead here. And then, like, where's the patient? Oh, I was in that. I'm fine, though. You know, what? You're fine? You don't have a scratch on you. How are you fine? But, I guess it's just one of those things. But I don't know.
Have you done any research to figure out what they did?
Yeah, so there's a couple possibilities of what happened. Is that what you mean? What happened?
Yeah,
what caused it? So that
not what caused it, but when she called the epidemiologist and she was suggesting, is there anything you want to try or anything like that? Have you done any research to figure out what that was?
I never thought about it, just based on my medical note. I'm sure I really didn't have the interest just because I knew it would be over my head. But I would imagine it was probably like a bunch of really abnormal or really strong antibiotics that fight really because I work in emergency healthcare. He probably threw some because he knew all the common antibiotics would have been thrown at me. So some really expensive, oddball shit that's used for very rare bacterias. He probably like an Ebola antibiotic, something that almost kills the patient, but either the patient dies or the bacteria dies, something like that, or an antifungal, or maybe a combination antivirals. I don't have any idea, but I would guess something like that. And super strong Hail Mary, super strong steroids, and I mean. He's dying or he's dying. What's it matter? Yeah. It was a joke about criking somebody that they're either dying with a big hole in their throat or without one. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So I think that was the joke. Either you're dying with this big bag of shit in you or without. But I don't know if that's what turned it around or if it just wasn't my time. But I was too sick to have my gallbladder taken out. They thought that I had a gallbladder blockage and that's why it caused it. Or a friend of mine had made moonshine a couple weeks before. And I literally just had a couple sips, but I had a couple sips out of the first jar. Mm-hmm. And if that hadn't been bled off, that could be methanol that I had.
Absolutely.
So it could be methanol poisoning.
Yeah, or with that pancreas. Yeah.
But once I was too sick to even be opened up for surgery. I wouldn't have lived through the surgery. So they say. So they didn't, or they would have taken my gallbladder out and like clean, like a manual cleaning, like spraying out all the shit in there. I guess I was too sick to do that, but by the time I healed, my gallbladder was clean. But they said that's common because it'll get so swollen, and whatever was constricted that held like a stone, it stretched so much from being sick, then whatever was in it just passed through, flushed through.
Flushed it.
Yeah. Like I had a gallstone, and then, I mean, it might not have been the methanol. I have no idea, but I think gallstone for sure was a big factor. But I think a huge factor.
Blockage.
Yeah. I think the biggest factor was stress. I really think stress. Yeah. That is a hard job.
Mm-hmm. You said you believed it was stress.
I think it is. I think that's a part of it. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that I was out of shape, but why was I out of shape? I mean, there's more to problems than just the surface level.
So stress from
from work.
So stress from the streets.
Yeah, or not handling it properly. Or having too much of it. I think too much of it. I think that's a problem. That's a huge parallel that I noticed from fire to EMS. And, I can only speak for, I'd worked rural EMS for a short period of time, but that is a different animal than a city, urban. And they want to get, it's government. At the end of the day, it's about money. At the end of the day, everything's about money. So they have the minimum amount of trucks, the minimum amount of staffing that they can efficiently get the job done with. So the civilians, the citizens are adequately safe. They're protected. But something is going to give somewhere in that. If you're overworking something, a system, a part of that system is going to eventually fail from overwork. So in that business, it seems to be the employees and it's from what I understand nationwide, the burnout rate's 6 years for a paramedic, something like that.
the stress thing. What is the biggest stressor on that EMS rig?
I think I would say it sounds simpler than it really is, but overstimulation that of serious things. You could have potentially there's one ambulance for probably 10,000 people on average. I don't know what the exact.
That's probably a generous guess.
I would not quote that, but I would say somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, and when I left in 2017, we had 12 ambulances? What are there now? 12, 13, roughly?
More than that.
14, 15? Say roughly 15.
Towards the end of the year, now towards 18.
So 18.
Yeah, getting close to that. Yeah.
So if we got 18 trucks for 350,000, in the summertime, say 500,000 people with tourists.
Mm-hmm.
So more than that.
So 600,000 people.
Yeah.
So 600,000 people, and there's 18 trucks. So if I'm a paramedic because I want to help people, and I have a feeling when I'm in uniform that I'm working. Even if you're not, I mean, you know that feeling. Even if you're not clocked, if you're on your way home in the morning and you're in uniform and you go to the grocery store and somebody codes, you don't step over and walk out and leave. Of course, you're going to do CPR, and you might end up driving the ambulance in the hospital. I mean, you're still at work if you're in uniform, period, until you take it off. It's just the way it is. And so you've got a desire to make a positive, not make a bad difference, a negative difference if you can. And if you're supposed to be, if you've sat at, and I like taking my time and taking breaks, of course, but if it's busy and there's serious shit pending, or firemen or cops are screaming for help, or something bad is happening and there's nothing available, that's a bad feeling, and it happens every single day.
Yeah.
And it's the stress of that, or also the stress of not being adequately prepared for, there's all kind of crazy shit, new medicines, new injuries, new ailments, new unknowns, new dangers, new hazards, literally physical dangers all the time. That cumulative stress, there was something they focused on a lot earlier in the career. It was unit hour utilization, UHUs. And for any employee, you're not supposed to work, actually think concentrating on something more than 50% of the time while you're clocked in. It sounds like a low amount, but if you think about it, like really focusing reading, you can't do that for 8 hours straight.
Right.
You can do it 10 minutes and then take a 10-minute break. You're human.
Yeah.
So anything more than 50% is considered like a negative net profit, because they're going to diminish the amount that they are. They might work for 8 hours, but they could have gotten more work done in 4 hours. So they're not concentrating the whole time.
Right.
So our UHUs were getting up to like 0.7, a couple of months were 0.9, and then they kind of stopped telling us.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe I don't know if that's a good scientific sample to utilize, if that's a good calibration of busyness, but I really loved being a fireman. I lived at the firehouse. And when I was a volunteer, I was there 24/7, and I would work and be at the volunteer firehouse. And I was 18, and it was that or girls, and the fire department was more important. That was going to be lifelong. And then went to EMS, and it was like that at first. And then I liked being busy and running calls, but something different about it. I think there's so much. I use a harsh term for it, but it's true. It's illegal, and there's a legal term for it. It's called abuse of 911. It's against the law. It's a North Carolina general statute, and it's a bad word to use. You're not supposed to use it if you work, but it's true.
It gets abused way too much.
Way too much. And I don't care. If I know my job is to pick up trash, and I'm not saying literally, I'm not saying this is trash. I'm making a correlation that
right.
If my job is to pick up trash on a trash truck, I don't go to work expecting to be a bartender. I know I'm going to pick up trash.
Right.
If my job is to go and do non-emergency medical transports from people's houses, and I get to even use a siren sometimes, okay, that's cool. I'm down for that. But my job is to do emergencies only.
Yeah.
And the reason that that's a big deal is because if I'm not on an emergency, if I'm tied up with something that is not important, then I'm not available for an emergency. And the next closest person that may be literally the person will be dead by the time they would get there. And I'm right around the corner from it. And that has happened. I've had people die in that situation. And more times than I can count that's happened.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible feeling. And that, for me, I would say that was the biggest stressor. And it's the worst. A mentally ill person with a substance abuse problem, you cannot hold accountable for abusing 911. I mean, you can throw them in jail, but they are not the problem.
Yeah.
A doctor's office with 60 doctors, 200 nurses that works closely with the hospital, that knows clinically and legally what an emergency is, that chooses to use the 911 service 10 to 20 times a day for non-emergency, that's illegal, immoral, and literally kills people for a profit. They're going to pay the bill. I don't know if that's the reason, but that became literally high blood pressure, dizzy, furious, and report it, and nothing is done. Chart it, never mentioned.
I can see where being passionate about the job, doing it for the reasons you want to help in those emergencies, and then getting handcuffed basically
Literally.
like on these bullshit runs.
And ironically, if you call the police to handcuff them, they just laugh and won't.
Right.
And the cop's answer is, no judge is going to hold this up, because all they got to say is they thought it was an emergency. My toe's been hurting for 4 months. What made an emergency? It hurt worse today. I was scared my whole body was getting sick. All right. Not guilty. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the way the law's written. But, I mean, there's got to be some common sense. Or a ton more resources.
Yeah.
available.
I don't know if I have a good comparison because, I mean, obviously you sound very passionate about this particular subject.
Yeah, well, I mean,
The
it gets
misuse of
good
the 911.
paramedics out.
Yeah.
That's what makes the good paramedics leave.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I would guess drawing it as a line as a fireman is if you were out doing hydrants at the far end of your district.
Hydrants and hose testing.
And miss a mutual aid fire where you could have been second due or something like that. That pisses us off.
Yes.
I get mad about that.
Yet, I'll tell you what, that's a good correlation. And from having done both, a correlation I can think of that has happened that was the same level of fury is when you're on the scene of a fire, but you're not being utilized. All your shit's put up. You're ready to clear, but command hasn't released you, and they're on the PS channel or track channel and not paying attention to dispatch. And there's a structure fire or something life-threatening that has been dispatched very close by, and someone is coming from a long way away, and you are in a position where you can go. This is out, or it's mop up. We are clear. No, we might know there may be a hot spot later.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? What are you talking about?
Right.
But I mean, you can't say anything. I mean, that's command for a reason. But it's poor decision making that costs people's lives.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a tough position. They have budgets, and I would not want their position either.
Would you say this misuse of the 911 system, would you say that there's more paramedics that share your perspective on it than not? Or is it just overlooked? I mean, and they just come to work and they're just at work, and it doesn't matter what the call is, what the nature of the call is. It's just a call, and they have to go do it.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever I don't think I've ever had a partner that disagrees with my position. I mean, there are some very good-hearted souls that say, that really believe that we're angels and we're there for a reason, and that if maybe we were meant to go to the doctor's office to help this guy, that he would have gotten in a wreck and died if he'd driven himself.
Can I give you my position?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
So-
I'm not married to any belief that I have.
No. It's definitely, I totally agree with your stance. And I definitely feel that there's definitely a lot of misuse, especially in this doctor's offices in the nursing homes. There's a lot of, the doctors won't come around and evaluate their patients, send them out. They need to go to the emergency room, get evaluated. And I've come to the point to where I've just accepted it.
Yeah.
So I've accepted it, and it is what it is. I'm not going to change it. So it's like, it's not right, but in order to make myself feel better at the job, is that I've accepted it, and it's just like, it is what it is, and I'm gonna take them to the hospital, whatever.
I tried and tried,
So
and I knew
just-
that was the answer, and I couldn't do it.
But there was a point. It took a long time for me to get to this point, and I think
And that was past burnout. It's probably past
burnout,
Yeah.
past maturity. It's a long stage past of when to run fast. When you first get your paramedic, you want to run all the traumas, you want to run everything that's like exciting, fast, and so
Thank God I never got a tattoo.
or a license plate.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you had a red light.
Oh, yeah, dude. That was
We all
awesome.
had red lights.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just, you just come to a point where you accepted it. And
I couldn't get over that.
I just talk to my patients now. Like, even if like patient with toe pain for 8 months,
I
entertain myself by talking to them and just
Now,
accepting it is what it is, and hey, I want to get paid anyway.
that is something also that is important, I think, to add. That never, this is not the patient's fault. This is a system problem. This is not the patient's problem. Yeah. So the attitude, the care, level of care, everything. I mean, if I went to a doctor's office for a BS transport, I mean, not BS transport, for a potentially non-emergency medical transport, I still gave him a full evaluation as if I'd met him on the street. Correct. Because things are missed, and obviously they are going to the ER because there's a level of care that was not able to be provided. So the care was not changed, and every now and then I did find something like, holy smokes, this is an emergency. That was the thing. Like, you go to a doctor, like, what are we here for? Well, this guy's in SVT and he's unconscious. Whoa, why didn't you call somebody? Oh, you did? Okay, we're here. You're good. Right. You're good. But it's real? Yeah. You know? But
they were just short of breath. Oh, now they're in SVT.
Yeah. But those were great. I love those. Those are some of my favorite situations where you could actually do something to fix somebody at a doctor's office. And like the person's unconscious when you walk in. And
do an EKG. What's an EKG?
Exactly. Yeah, no kidding. Those are fun. But overall, I'd say the positive thoughts. But the stress is tough.
Well, I talk about compassion fatigue a lot for us.
Yes, I used to talk about that all the time.
Well, now you don't have it, so you're getting a little bit of what it's like to be a real human again.
Yes, I used to talk about that.
That's a missing piece for us.
That was actually the words that I could not think of earlier. When you were asking me what was the biggest problem with EMS or why did I leave, that if I had to put 2 words on it, compassion fatigue are the 2 words. I mean, now I could go, I mean, I work in real estate now, but I'm fairly new in it, so I'm not making great money. So I could go back to EMS right now, and I mean, I don't know. If I could go back to my original salary and with all the raises I would have missed, I'd be doing pretty well. But, I mean, I've already been really sick. I had a seizure. I don't want to take the risk of hurting somebody else.
Right.
And that really, if it were just those, I would do it. But the place that you have to put yourself, it sounds so cheesy to say, but it's really true. Emotionally to get to be able to function and not care if a 2-year-old is not breathing and the mom is screaming over your shoulder with 40 people staring at you. To be able to function and do that competently, your brain has to be in a pretty dark, weird place. And you have to be there before you get to work to be able to do it accurately. And we've all seen people that are not in that place that freeze up and cannot function. But the people that can either live in a pretty dark place or they can get to a pretty dark place pretty quick where they can function normally through that. And that is not a place that I know where to get to anymore. It's like a part of my brain that I don't know how to get to anymore. And I like it, that I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, good for you.
It's weird. It's really strange. But like thinking about how calls are going over stuff, like I never used to get affected or PTSD sounds so commercialized, but I don't know of a synonym beyond it.
Right.
And I have not been to see anybody, haven't got a diagnosis. It's just the only thing I can think of to describe it. But like just flashbacks to thinking about old calls, or oddly enough, I went to New York City a few weeks ago, and I was working as a fireman on 9/11. I was a rookie. I was 19. I was by myself when they supplemented with the county fireman, a volunteer station. So I was by myself that day, watched all those guys, watched the fire, watched the planes hit, literally eyes glued to it. And then we were dispatched actually to the airport on 9/11. There was a reported rollover, and they don't know if it was a prank phone call or just a cross-up. But so we thought there was an attack here. There were a ton of planes. So our station was on the landing track for the airplanes to come and land. And when Bush ordered all planes to come in, we have a huge runway. It used to be a military base in World War II. So we've got a huge runway and a lot of tarmac space and not a lot of volume. So there was a shit ton of planes out in the Atlantic that were just sent here.
Right.
Like,
close.
Yeah, but stuff with Israeli writing and Asian writing, and we're being attacked by planes, and there are these weird-ass big fucking planes coming through. And then there's a report of a crash on the runway here. So, I mean, there's nothing, but it's just the holy shit all day long.
Yeah.
And then I watched 343 2679 people total, and 343 firemen, 2 paramedics, and 34 cops die. I might have that backwards, but I think that's the numbers are right. But anyway, I mean, even close on that, to remember that 20 years later, that says something that sticks with you. And I feel guilty for even it bothering me. That's a shame. I mean, there's people that lost themselves, their family, whatever, brothers, sisters, or even just being there. But I don't know. It's a hell of a bad survivor's guilt. And I never really realized that any of this stuff, I thought when it was over, it was over. It isn't going to bother me. I might have dealt with a couple of bad calls, and I dealt with it. But after that scab wear, or that callus wears off, of being able to put yourself in that crazy position on a daily basis where it's no big deal, or laugh and joke about it afterwards, something that's totally macabre, morbid. Once that gets off, there's a scab under that. And there are things that, with any wound, that can be torn open. And it's really easy to tear that open, and you don't know what can do it. You don't know what's sharp, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, like rubbing your hand on this, there could be a splinter that's going to cut your hand open. That's kind of what life is like after retiring from emergency services. And I can only speak for myself. But that once that wears off, you'll see something. And it might be just a little girl walking, and it reminds you, I remember a girl that got shot in the head that looked just like that kid.
Yeah, that transition to the afterlife of doing the emergency services, and now you're starting to get your feels back. If you could do it again, would there be a few purposeful steps? Like, did you learn anything about that transition?
Definitely. What I would have done the military, because I would be out with 20 years and I had a full retirement as deserved. If you've done 20 years in something that takes that much physical and danger and public service and sacrifice, couldn't have a family. I didn't think I could have a family with that schedule. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the opportunity, but I didn't put myself in the position to, as I didn't think it was feasible. And I didn't think I could afford it. That's not right. That's a problem. Something that's always stood out to me when Ladder 49 came out. Mm-hmm. There was a couple guys at one of our stations that went to press junket where the actors were, and they signed the poster. So at the station, there's a signed poster from Ladder 49. So John Travolta made I think it was John Travolta. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
He made $6 million to pretend to be a fireman for 2 months, and had a stunt double to pretend to fall in a controlled natural gas fire that's controlled into a pool of water. Mm-hmm. Just pretending. And he made $6 million. That is 6 times the salary of the entire career of the technical advisor who's the fireman, who's telling him how to do this.
Right.
This is fucked up. These numbers are, nobody's going to argue with this. I don't think the actors would even argue with that.
Right.
But I think it's wrong and I don't think any of us got into it to be millionaires, but when you get into it and you're broken physically or mentally afterwards, and there's nothing there to back you up just because you chose the wrong department, I don't know. I wish I'd gone to the military is what I would say. I could have been a paramedic in there and have full retirement, and all the medical problems that I had, whether they were not related to the job. You know, instead I came out with a 0 retirement. I can collect when I'm 55, but I don't know, for 20. I don't hold it against them. I knew what I was getting into, and I signed the papers. It's not like they told me they were going to pay me retirement afterwards. But I wish I could go back to an 18-year-old self and say, "Don't do it like this.
Yeah.
Trust me, you're going to really regret not having a huge retirement at this age."
How about if you can go back to how long ago was it that you moved away?
October 2017.
Gotcha. Knowing what you know now, that leaving and that transition, you probably wouldn't go waste your time applying for the other department.
The EMS gig? Well, if I'd known what they were, no, I wouldn't have. But on paper, it looked really cool. The pay was great, and it was really chill. It was a slow department, but I see why they had so many openings.
Right.
They had a little bit of a retention problem.
Yeah.
But Charleston was chill. That was kind of like a 2-year. She was there for the most stressful thing on earth, and she was studying 24/7, and I was in Charleston.
Yeah.
It was like a vacation. I didn't have to pay for anything. She's in school.
Yeah.
I was just hanging out, and I've got a hot chick who's in PA school.
Yeah.
I just had a job.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It was a perfect situation.
Seems like a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah, it was a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad I made that decision. I've been lucky in life that I've not made decisions that think about, like, don't ever drink and drive. The big things. Don't drink and drive. Don't walk out drunk out of your house with a pistol in your hand. Nothing good is going to happen with that. You know what I mean? Just things that, common sense things, pre-playing those in your head, that absolute knots. If a chick says no, stop, no matter how drunk you are. Just, that's it. End of it. You know, these are career enders, life enders. Just don't go to the firehouse drunk. So even if it seems like a great idea because your buddy's working that night, don't do it. Not a good idea. You know what I mean?
Some default rules.
Yeah, and I've made some of those poor, but I got through them. But yeah, I don't know. Luckily, never got in trouble or not made life-killing decisions, I guess, or career-killing.
Yep.
But I was definitely a wild child, I would say, growing up.
Yeah. If 2018 version of you.
I don't think I answered your question, did I?
No,
not at all.
I'm coming right back to
that's
it.
what I was thinking. Yep.
So you 6 months after you've left, and now you know how everything went. What advice would you give you?
3 years ago?
Yeah. So the point being, somebody's listening right now that has left, or they're thinking about it, like they're on the bubble, and they're like, "Fuck this place. I'm done. I'm gonna go move." And I'm not trying to encourage people to quit, but there's people that do it, right? Yeah. So what's the advice for that person to do it in a healthy manner?
So I got a couple pieces of advice. One was actually from Mike Tata. And like I was probably 18, and he said, "Get a job. It doesn't matter what it is. Work in McDonald's, Walmart, doesn't matter, and stick with it. If you don't know what you want to do, and stay with it." He said, if you stay with McDonald's for 30 years, you're going to be a district manager making $150,000 with a company car. If you start at 16.
Mike Totter told you this.
Yeah, Mike Totter. But I mean, it's good advice. But he's a stone dude. You know, he's got his own business. But he's got his own successful business for 20-something years. So
He did my driveway.
I was also an 18-year-old fireman. You know, I was looking for advice from. I'm taking advice from anyone offering, and then I'll figure it out later. But that was good advice. So I stuck with it, and so then I stuck with it too long. Though I got to the burnout point with EMS. In probably 2013, probably the average time you get burned out, like 6 or 7 years in, where I was miserable. But I was doing a good job at it. I knew it was safe. I knew I was going to make money. I knew I had a pension. But that is not the American dream. That's miserable. Just making enough to survive. I mean, if I absolutely loved it, if I was an astronaut, that's killer. You know, if it's something you'll do for free. But when it gets to a point where it's a miserable chore, get out. You can be a bartender for 2 years while you're in school. Don't feel like you're stuck to that because everybody tells you that's all there is. And that's that's the trap, is that everybody you're working with, that's all they've done, or that's the best they've done.
Right.
And if they're 40 and doing EMS and that's the best they've done, that's probably the best people surrounding them have done. And not knocking that, it's very admirable. I mean, some of the smartest, brightest, best people I know are career paramedics. I mean, one of the best men I know is still a paramedic at 60-something. It's awesome. Awesome guy. But he wanted to do that. That's wonderful. He did exactly what he wanted to do, and he's successful at it. But don't do it because you feel like you're stuck, because then you are stuck, and you're fucked. Then you're old and with kids and not doing what you want to do, and you don't have the opportunity. Do it while you're young. And if you just want to, I mean, to each their own. If there's a department you absolutely love and you're in a place you want to be, by all means, do what you want to do. But if you just want to be in EMS, go either to nursing school or go in the military. You get a solid, or with a government retirement, with a disability. If you get hurt at work, you get a paycheck forever. It happens. I mean, look at the statistics of people that get hurt at work. It happens. You're going to get hurt at work, and they're going to make you keep working longer than you should, even with an injury, unless you're with a place with like union reps or a government agency that has a physician that will be a block on that. That no, he cannot work. No, he cannot do light duty, or no, you're not going to make him work at the dump because he can't be a paramedic anymore.
Right.
No, that's not what we signed up for. Make sure you're with an agency that does that, has those safeguards. Like New York City is a good example. That if you're injured, you get 3/4 of your pay forever. It was a 20-year retirement. I don't know if that's gone up, but you work 8-hour shifts instead of 24s because they know you're running a call. Every time you get cleared, you get on another call. It's not realistic to work 24-hour shifts.
Yeah, it's pretty taxing.
Yeah. Or like DC does 24-hour shifts, but you get 3 days off with the same amount of pay because they know that that first day off is a sleep day. It's not a real day off.
Right.
I mean, we've got to be realistic about these. These are people and not machines. And it costs a hell of a lot more to train up a brand new person. It costs like $50,000 to get a fireman from nothing on the street. And then God knows how much more money it takes to get him trained to the level of being a line officer. And then God knows how much more to be a chief. So if you're dumping people out because they have a shitty, horrendously tough schedule or work stress, your attrition rate is going to outcost just making an easier schedule for them and hiring another shift of people in the long run.
You're trying to put logic into a couple of conversations.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you? Drew, let's wrap this up with I got one thing. If you had a magic wand and you could do anything in the world with it, wrap your head around first responders community, what would you do to change and make things better? One thing. You only get one thing. Your magic wand's good for one thing.
If it's one thing, it's got to be save lives. I mean, that has to be one thing. That's why we all signed up for this at the end of the day. So and the first life you save is your own and then your crew, right? So I'm not in any danger right now. So the crew, obviously other people are. People are dropping like flies. So mental health would be I think that's what comes to my mind first. Mental health of, literally, I hate this term, but root cause. Really, what is the cause of the mental health crisis? People have been seeing dead people as long as humans have been alive. Seeing dead people is a part of life that's not a big deal. So that's not what's causing these people to kill themselves. I think them seeing dead people and then having to go on 14 more calls that day without even the chance of talking to somebody and getting a shit paycheck and having to work a second job and not seeing their spouse because they're having to work a second job and driving a shit car that may or may not start. You know what I mean? And this is kind of an exaggeration and the extremes of it, but everyone in emergency services comes across every one of those situations at some point in their career. And it sucks. And that is added stress onto, this is something I used to always say about, and I told one of my best friends, Clint, was in the military, retired from the military, and he agrees with me. So, I mean, his perspective, my perspective, I can't speak for anybody else, but if you're in the military, you go in combat. I have not been in combat in the military, but that's got to be hellaciously worse. They're getting shot at and having to shoot back. I've been shot at, but I've never had to shoot back at someone. Right. That's got to be hellaciously emotionally stressful. So if you're in combat and you do that for a war for a week, you've done that for a week, that's a terrible experience, and you may have PTSD the rest of your life. We may do that. We're not doing the shooting, but say in a police officer's position, they're doing the shooting. They're in combat. Then the next week, or whenever they get released from the shooting, they're back to work doing it again. They're in combat again. And then every single day they're in combat for 30 years. What soldier is never trained but is in combat for 30 fucking years? And how often do cops and paramedics train? Firemen train pretty well. That's pretty good at training there. But with the volume of calls and lack of staffing with fire or with EMS and PD, it should be 3/4 training, 1/4 calls. That's what the military does. And it's very proficient at that level.
Yeah. It's nowhere near that.
Way overworked. I mean, the numbers, it's just not safe. Anyway, and the machine predictably is cracking with people killing themselves, with providers killing themselves, because they will do anything. If you tell them to work 72 hours, they're going to work 72 hours. If they don't get to sleep 2 nights in a row, they're still going to go on the call in the morning. If the shift before didn't clean any of the hose, you're going to do it just because it's got to be done. That's it. No is not an acceptable answer. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to push yourself to where you cannot take it anymore. And I don't think any of us know where that line is, but we all have a line where you can acutely get pushed to the line, to kill yourself or somebody else. And I don't think we know what that line is until we get there. But obviously, something is happening as a system in emergency services where it's causing people to get to that point. And I think the two biggest things from the outset, from 20 years of experience outside looking in, the two biggest things that have put me at peace in life are having enough money to where I don't have to be terrified of how I'm going to live while I'm at work or have a second job when I'm already working 70 hours a week. I mean, that's not good for you, period.
Correct.
And and having a support network also that you're really comfortable talking to. And my dad told me something great years ago, that you need the average person. Really, if the shit hits the fan, you think you got 1,000 friends, but if you're in the hospital and it's really bad, the first couple of days, you'll have a bunch of people there. A weekend, you'll have a handful of people there. If you're in the hospital for like 3 months, there's going to be 1 or 2 people there on that last day. They're still there by your side. And you're lucky if you have one. All you need is one. That's it. So just one person to really be there 24/7. And the fire service is a good thing because typically you got a lot of people that are close. Even if you're not close to them, you can call them in even another department. That's a blessing.
Right.
But you got to know you can utilize that resource. If you were broken down at 3 a.m. outside a firehouse somewhere and there was a shift there pulling in, you would go up to him and be like, dude, I'm a fireman out of town. My car's fucked. I'm out of gas, whatever. If your cell phone was dead. Why wouldn't you do that if you wanted to blow your head off?
Yeah.
Because of the embarrassment. But it's worth it. It's going to be way more embarrassing for them to go to your funeral because you killed yourself than it will be to ask for help. But, there needs to be legitimate treatment. Legitimate treatment is not IVCing somebody, committing them for 3 days in the hospital that they work in. There's nobody in the world that is going to accept that kind of treatment. There's got to be real treatment. That's not treatment. There's got to be, what I think would be a great thing to do is a quality rehabilitation facility specifically for emergency responders, like they have for veterans.
Agreed. Yeah, there's got to be there's improvements that need to be made in that realm. I've been hearing of facilities coming up.
I hope so.
Who was it that was just telling us about the place that's built like a firehouse?
It was Josh, wasn't it? It was Josh or Matt one.
It's the Center for Excellence.
That's awesome.
Yep, Center for Excellence.
The fire service has done some amazing improvements on whenever the fire service, emergency services, period, decides as a whole that they find something they want to tackle universally, it's tackled and it's handled. When they first started thermal imagers, literally 1 year, no one in the country had one. Like Los Angeles Fire Department, New York City had one. And I think it was the police department, ESU, had one. And then the next year, everybody in the country had one. And they were expensive as shit and hard to come by. And one company made them. And everybody had them. Because the fire department said, fuck, no.
Yeah, we have to have these.
Yeah, and the saving your own classes. One fireman fell down a hole and burned to death with 6 guys watching him because they couldn't get him out of a basement. And then, boom, rescue started. And everybody's trained as a rescue person. Not just one person. You have a harness sewed into your turnout gear now.
Right.
And that's happened in because they took that on as a task, that we can't let people die like this anymore. Well, a shitload more people are dying from the bottle or from a pistol than from falling down basements and burning to death.
That's a really good point.
So it's time to put the focus on that.
I think that's a really good point, but the mental health. Well, the mental health thing is such a complex issue because you're dealing with individuals, whereas you can take the rescue situation that you just gave and you can make that very specific. If a firefighter falls in a hole, here's a handful of ways that you can get him out of the hole. Well, that might not work for Steve,
right?
Or that might not work for Jeremy, or that might not work for myself. So I think the working through it is so much more complex than just being able to put your thumb on it and be like, well.
Can't make a Denver drill for mental health.
This is what we need to do.
We've been real good at bringing, and we cumulatively is nationwide or internationally, really good at bringing problems to the table, but nobody's come up with a solution yet. But that probably is because we're not qualified to make these decisions, and our bosses aren't. These need to be mental health, and I'm not talking about a counselor, an LCW that works for the county that checks to make sure that you can carry a handgun legally. Not that person. Like an MD that's not affiliated with your job that could get you fired if you say the wrong thing to them.
Right.
I think it would be good we have professionals with everything else. Why wouldn't we? You go to Shapiro to get your physical, or if he's still there. But you go to you don't go to the chief's office to get your annual physical. You go to a professional, and it should be no different. And maybe it should start being like voluntarily mandated, like a voluntary evacuation. Like, Tuesday we're going to, it's our annual to go to the clinic, and part of it is going to be mental health. And you're going to sit in the room for 2 hours, whether you talk to anybody. It's like the office. You can go in the office and talk to the doctor if you want to, but you're going to be in there for 2 hours. The whole shift's going to be. And nobody knows whether you talk to them or not. I don't know.
You think that would be better combated as a shift, or as like on a company level, or on a shift type scale?
I don't know. That'd be a good question to ask a mental health
So
professional.
one question that's been asked before in this podcast is dealing with critical incident stress debriefing. So having a tough call as a shift, do you feel that having CISD available for anybody who wants to show up after following a call versus forcing everyone who's involved with a identified tough call? So you have a call that somebody has identified as a tough call and forcing everybody to come to it versus making it a voluntary show up. What is your thoughts on those two aspects of making it voluntary versus just making everybody come to it as a shift?
On a very superficial level, as a U.S. citizen, you should not be forced to do anything involving speech, period. You should never be forced to listen or say or not say anything you do or do not want to as a citizen of this country, period. So beyond that, I mean, that should be the end of the conversation right there. But beyond that, the books say that everyone grieves and heals differently. I mean, when you come to just on a 911 call, if you come to somebody whose child is killed, some people may be screaming and jumping up and down. Some people may be rolling around. Some people may be totally somber. Some people may be crying. And we've all seen this, that you never know. It's a crapshoot of the way somebody's going to behave. And that's the same for us. When we do that, and some people are not ready to speak. They have not gotten to that level of grief yet, or they're still working. They're not ready to process this yet, or they have to see their kids ready. They're not at a level that they're comfortable talking about this, and you can't force someone. It's like forcing somebody to. I can take your drink away from you, but if you want to keep drinking, you're going to get one after later. You're not going to. It's the same way with this. That I think that's detrimental, and then you're hurting the process of the people that do want to be there, because there's a bunch of people that don't want to be there, or they're rolling their eyes potentially, or at least the vibe in the room that there are people that don't want to be there, and the room's overcrowded with half the people that want to get out, so the people that really need it don't feel comfortable speaking because they just want to leave.
Sounds like y'all share the same stance.
Or
a little bit.
Or the person that was really affected by it's new, and he doesn't want to, or he or she doesn't want to say anything because they're in a. It's kind of like, remember Rookie of the Year, the movie, when the little kid walks in. He was on the team. He walks in the locker room for the first time with the big baseball players, and he's got to change his uniform. No way I'm not changing. I'm not taking this towel off with all these big dudes around here. I'm built like a little kid. So he waits till they all leave, right? It's the same principle with this. If you're the young guy and it bothers you, you're in a room full of senior guys that are like, oh my God, it was a 70-year-old dude. Well, it was the first person I've ever seen dead. That's the worst thing he's ever been through. It really messed him up. They need to talk about it, but they're never going to feel comfortable in that room.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
it does.
It does.
So what are your guys' views?
So
Is this a controversial topic?
So
No,
saying
it's not
that
controversial.
the new person's now uncomfortable talking in front of the senior person,
And not necessarily new.
and now the senior person's not making it an environment to make it comfortable to talk about it. So that's kind of where we've come up with the conundrum in the past, where yes, you don't want to force people to show up to where they don't want to be. That's very counterproductive. That's counterproductive of what you want to make an environment that's open to speaking. But you have people that are coming up into the service now that don't feel comfortable to speak because they're brought up in that environment, and then things pile up, and they're now the statistic of the people that commit suicide in the service. So you think about all the people that we know that have committed suicide in the service. I would think that probably most of them are a blind side, like of when when it happened.
I think you might have just made a pretty dangerous assumption.
Really,
You can't assume that everybody committed suicide would not have done so if you forced them to go to a meeting. You know what I mean? I may have misunderstood you, but it sounded like
no. But if you
look
don't
at all
provide the
people that-
opportunity,
Sit back down.
if you don't provide the opportunity, and say even if it's not, so okay, you're 12 years on the job now, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
So calls now that you run, you are far more comfortable with than somebody who just now got in the job. So you run something that's pretty messed up, but you got somebody that comes up who's never experienced that before, never seen that before, but you have. You're going to handle it a lot different than they are. So therefore, if you both go to CISD together, you might be able to help them cope through that a little bit, a little bit better. Is that kind of helped out a little bit? What I'm saying?
Maybe. I would end up handling it before we ever went to a CISD.
Yeah.
So let me throw a curveball at you.
All right.
From somebody who's out of the game, looking from an outsider now.
Mm-hmm.
So CISDs have been done for 25 years, right? And suicides have continued to rise. So maybe the whole process isn't working. Maybe the whole thing needs to be redone. Maybe it's better on a one-to-one level, or both, or have a flag system with, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. A questionnaire.
What's the flag system?
That's what I was thinking. Is maybe when in emergency services, when you start, when I started, we had to take a psychiatric test because we're going to be alone with patients. Was the thought that they need to prove, like they have a marker that look, when he started, he was not a child molester. He took and passed this psychiatric profile test. It was like a 5-hour exam that we had to take. And I think that went to the wayside. They were very expensive to offer. So I think
they're not there anymore.
The thought of lawsuit would be outweighed. A lawsuit never happened, so they weren't worried about it anymore. But my point is that there can be pre-employment screens like that. So not necessarily a psychiatric exam to see if somebody's crazy, but a screening test to see what some of these weak points may be, or straight up ask them, give them a questionnaire of, are there things that if you saw may bother you, that you may want, you're going to see the worst things in life. If you have lost a grandfather, is there a situation that you would like us to come and talk to you about, or you may want to speak to someone if this were to happen? It's not, I don't know, and then maybe always do it with people under 5 years with traumatic deaths, pediatric arrest, any cardiac arrest for somebody under the age of, under the service level of 3 years. Or just review those. I mean, they're great to any call where somebody dies, those are usually pretty serious situations. So why not just do I can't think of the name, but when you go over a call, a hot
wash.
Yeah, hot wash. Why not do a hot wash over it? Not call it a CISD. Because doing a hot wash, if you're going to do a mandatory, do a hot wash, and you're just going to consequently talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then if it comes out of the hot wash that somebody's off, that may be sending the company. They love sending company officers to ass backwards crazy fucking training for shit that's never going to come into play. But instead of sending you guys to the bomb simulation training in Phoenix one year, send you to a counseling class where you learn how to, certified to say, hey, I noticed that it looked like you had a tear in your eye doing that. I'm not calling you out. I'm not saying you were. I could have seen it totally wrong. But if you are, it's happened to me too. And we got somebody to talk to. They got me through it. I'm not saying you did, but even if it ever comes up, here you go. Or that could be your introduction that, of your expectations when you get a new guy on the job. If you show up to work smelling like liquor, I'm calling the boss. If you lie to me, it's just like stealing from me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to fuck you. If you're honest with me, I'll get you through anything. Even if you fuck up, I'll cover it for you. We're going to work through it. But if you lie to me, you're fucked. That conversation that everybody has with the new person, that could be part of it.
That's a Robbie Matheson conversation right there.
It's exactly where I got that line from.
Yep.
That's exactly where I got that line
Don't
from.
Don't lie from me, cheat from me, steal from me.
And if you a great line also was, I can't help you unless I know the problem. That's what he said. Like, if you fuck something up and you try to hide it, if you had told me about it, we could have already had it fixed before you went home.
Yeah.
And it would, you might have gotten burned from me, but you wouldn't have gotten burned, fucked, really in trouble. Yeah. So why couldn't it be along those lines?
I think that you're implying that that company officers should take charge of the people in their own firehouse. Is what you're implying. And I've often been told that, that's a great ambition, but that's not every officer.
Care.
Well, some officers care more than others.
If they don't care, there's a lot of people behind them that do. You don't need to hire people just because of a number shortage. Mm-hmm. It needs to be because of quality.
So could that be a...
And I'm not saying any. I don't even know. I'm not talking about any
Could that be a
department.
logical step, though? I'm spitballing out here. Could it be a logical step towards being able to put our thumb on the pulse of this mental health thing? Is just like Josh was talking about. You remember him talking about in his interview how they did psychological evaluations as you went up in the chain, it wasn't base model. Like when you got hired on as a firefighter, you didn't go through that. But as you promoted on through the department, you were issued one to see if you fit the position mentally that they were seeking. So could that possibly be a part of working towards
character profile?
Yeah, a character profile for a company officer it should fit that mold. That should be that's like you say, that's 99% of the job. It's not the 1%. 1% is fighting fires and going to 911 calls, but 99% is dealing with people issues. Yeah. So that's in your firehouse.
Anybody in the service too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That 360 evaluation would be a perfect thing in that situation.
I think so too.
360 evaluation. That sounds fun. What is this?
It's this new concept.
I love these new concepts. Blue card. Love it.
So let's say you're a company officer in the Hanover County Fire Department.
Are we still not fighting interior? Are we still spraying from the outside? Or are we going inside now?
You can if you want, but you'll be looking at my tail going inside.
I was making sure.
So evaluation time of the year, the way I'm understanding it is it's not just your supervisor evaluating you. It's the people like somebody from a neighboring department, sheriff department.
Does that go into your money evaluation?
Other agencies
determines your raises?
This is a new idea. I just heard about it.
So this is not in effect.
Nope.
Is this being proposed nationally or locally?
I think it's a national thing.
Okay, all right, I'm with you. Okay,
Yeah, we just
so that would be
shows ago.
So it would be like a cumulative evaluation based on lots of criteria.
Yeah, the way it was presented was like, let's say you're going for a promotion. Instead of it just being how you perform in that interview or passing whatever test, there's a lot more data to look at. Like if you're like, what is, lieutenant from the sheriff department, and what does the agency next door think of them? Some of that more.
Yeah.
It's basically putting data to what normally would just be a referral phone call.
Yeah, so it's like a civil service board, essentially, a pre-hire civil service board. So it's random people from the community giving character profiles.
Yeah, it's partly random people from the community, other services that you work in conjunction with, but also directly from subordinates.
Yeah, that's what. From subordinates.
Yes,
too. So
absolutely.
This is not for new hires, only promotional.
Right.
It's not that. It seems. I don't know. I can think of a couple positives right off the bat that would be good. That if somebody's just been an absolute, I can think of like a dad type piece of shit character. That may stop it because yes, he has kissed the ass and shown up on work on time and pencil whipped everything, but it's a job where you don't have a supervisor every day. You might not see your chief for 2 months, or you can kiss his ass for 5 minutes while he's there, and nobody knows you. So that may be a good thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you guys have thought about this longer. Are there negatives to this as well?
I haven't seen the negatives yet.
So are you thinking along the way I'm thinking that's positive?
The only negatives that I can see is for the people who are not performing to their optimum ability, to the fullness of their potential.
Is it going to weed it out?
That's right. I think so. So it's a negative for them.
Yeah, negative for them. Yeah,
that's right.
But
What's
positive for
accountability?
everybody else.
Yeah, it's accountability.
I think that the days of anonymity and really anything going on quietly is close to being totally over. I think
there's a camera on everything now.
I think that in every public building everywhere is going to be under surveillance. Unless you're in the bunker room or the bathroom, it's under surveillance, and they can still probably hear. Just because the other things, it's going to be live. Somebody's going to be able to look. You never know if somebody's glancing. You know what I mean? I think unfortunately it's going to get that. Or we're going to get sick of this, and Supreme Court's going to say this is too much. Done. Stop. No more cameras inside.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea what the future
pulling for
holds.
that.
But yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I don't like there's too much control personally, and the accuracies are not. The reasons for it don't seem to be accurate.
Cool. Well, Drew, it's been fun. You got anything else, Steve?
Nah.
I really miss you guys, man. I miss being around everybody. I really miss the camaraderie. I don't see anybody. I've thought about joining Oak Island, but I don't fucking know anybody.
Well, it'll houses down there, baby.
They know shit.
We've burned some down there.
Mm-hmm. Do you work there?
No, I don't work there.
Yeah. Do you guys get sent down?
Yeah, we do live burn training. And we burn a lot down
there. Oh, when they burn those old houses down?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shit. Do any of them have cool stuff on the inside? Some of those houses are really old.
By the time we get to them, they've been prepped. All the carpet's out. Any plastics and synthetics is gone. No furniture. No,
Pretty sure there's
no blinds.
probably some dope ass old wood and stuff in there.
Interesting.
Drew, it's been a pleasure, brother.
You too.
I've
Thanks,
enjoyed
guys.
it. All right, man.
I miss y'all.
All right, later.